Hello, everyone. This is Eric Pennington, and welcome to the Spirit of EQ podcast. We're glad that you've tuned in. A few things we wanted to tell you at the beginning of the show, and that's this podcast was created to be a tool to help you, primarily to discover and grow your EQ. Science and our own lived experiences confirm that the better we are at managing our emotions, the better we're going to be at making decisions, which leads to a better life. And that's something we all want. We're glad that you've taken out the time today to listen and hope that something that you hear will lead to a breakthrough. Hey, one last thing. We'd really appreciate a review on whichever platform you use to listen. And if you want to, leave some comments about what you heard today, as well as follow and subscribe. That way you won't miss a single episode as we continue this journey. And with that, the show begins. Jeff, hello again.
Hello again, Eric.
We are in the studio today. It's a good day in the studio.
Yes.
Hey, I don't know how many times in our episodes, whether we actually did one specifically on this or just in our general conversations, because it seems to be so prevalent, is neural pathways.
Yes.
How's that?
The mystery of them.
The mystery of neural pathways. So I'm going to kind of open it up this way and tell you, and I want to say for our audience, I'm telling you how I've approached it. I am not making any scientific claims. I am not giving any clinical advice at all and saying that you should do this and this is how it works, but this has worked for me. So in examining core beliefs, that's kind of where the root of it was for me, even though in our work, I knew the working definition around neural pathways and its implications, and I know we're going to get into that in this episode too. But the process for me was, it starts with a core belief, and most core beliefs are developed early on in life. And I'm talking like, the 7, 8, 9-year-old,
right.
like, because your brain's not fully developed, and you're creating these core beliefs typically to survive your environment. And I don't mean just survive as in there's this great danger of life and death, but survive like I got 3 siblings and I got my mom and dad, and my mom and dad have a different approach. And
maybe navigate would be a better word.
That's a good word. Yeah. To navigate the world in which you are living in, the environments, be it school, be it home, on and on and on. But unfortunately or not, most of the time, the core beliefs are not very positive. They can be negative.
Yeah.
Right?
It's protection.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Right? So the core belief, you develop it, and then you develop a neural pathway, right? Because that's kind of like the support mechanism. It's how I think about that core belief.
So this neural pathway is, when you're confronted with this, that's how that train of thought goes.
Right, exactly. And I'm going to give you a personal example. Okay. So when I was growing up, probably around 7-ish, 8-ish, my parents made it very clear to me that I was not to trust white people ever. It was just, you just can't, because they all harbor some level of racism, bigotry, whatever. So at 7, my brain certainly wasn't fully developed at 7. I took that on as a core belief. I was what I would say a good kid, so I wasn't running around, saying, I just saw a white person and they're bad. But it was always in my mind. It was always, if I encounter somebody from that race, be careful, be aware, blah, blah, blah. So neural pathways develop. You start to think about it because your brain wants to make things easy, right? Your brain wants to make things, and it wants to protect you. So when I encountered, and time goes on, and ideally what happens is when we become an adult, we should check all of our core beliefs. Okay. And if you don't, the danger is you'll carry that core belief into adulthood.
Well, sometimes doesn't that core belief become so embedded that you don't even
you're
know
not
it's
conscious
there.
of it.
Yeah,
you're not conscious of it. Because think about it. That whole premise of you can't trust anyone from that particular race. Well, okay, so how many people from that race have you met? At best, Jeff, I mean, even as I look over my lifetime, I've only probably interacted with, I don't know, 1,000 people from the white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, whatever, maybe 1,000. But that probably is a stretch too, because I mean, I'm talking about not just passing them on the street, but I'm talking about where, hey, it's John, hey, it's Susan or whatever. It's a small percentage of a population that probably is close to 225 million. So just doing the math, that percentage is so small that you'd say, I don't know how you could really say that's true. But a core belief is formed not based on science and mathematics. It's it's the navigating tool. Oh, mom and dad say don't X. Okay. And other ones that are probably even more common, right? You're not good enough. Mm-hmm. You're not smart. You know, I'm disappointed in you. You're a disappointment. All of those kind of things that we've heard. Mm-hmm. And in fairness to every parent out there, or teacher or coach or whatever, who had a bad day and uttered those words like, you'll never amount, right? They might have been having a bad day, and I want to be fair to that. And I know there are monsters who purposely perpetrate that stuff on kids. But what we don't realize is that when you say things like that to a young mind, they believe it. They can believe it, I should say.
Well, and that young mind now starts saying those things
to themselves. There's the neural pathway, right?
And that every time they say that to themselves, they just make that pathway.
It's like more asphalt, right? It's just like more improvements to the road.
Yep.
It just continues. It continues. And the danger, Jeff, and I didn't find this with that advice with my mom and dad, because I had some life events that happened when I was a teenager that proved their idea wrong. And I want to be in total loving fairness to my parents. They probably developed a core belief because their parents, you know the drill, right?
Right.
So mine changed a bit. But the danger in this is that this gets carried over and into your adult years. Now, no one ever came to me at 18 or 21 or 24 and said, hey, Eric, before you go any further, let's sit down and check those core beliefs of yours. Right?
Right.
I wish somebody would have, because it would have given me, and I'm not blaming Jeff, I know you know that, right? But it would have given me the opportunity to go, hey, wait a minute. Yeah, I get that. I probably did create that to navigate that family dynamic thing, but that doesn't apply now. So we go to that process. I am of the firm belief, Jeff, that all of us should be doing some intentional work on examining what your core beliefs are and the neural pathways connected, and ask that probing question. Is it true?
Right.
And then follow it up. Is it really true? Now, because we know how the brain works, it's not like you just snap your fingers. Hey, it's not true, Jeff. Therefore, I'm going to be a different.
That neural pathway still has the green light.
Yeah, look at the pavement on that thing.
Yeah,
I mean, look at the.
And you know it by the back of your hand.
Why would you go any other direction and take any other path? Right.
Right.
So I'm acknowledging that because you and I both know that that's difficult work. But it was made more efficient for me, again, using my reference point, is I went through and I wrote down, here are my core beliefs. Are they true? The ones that were true, check, we'll keep them. The ones that were not true, okay, we need some examination here, right? So here's, again, an example. Let's say that the core belief is, I'm not good enough. Okay, and you've been going to carry that neural pathway that supports that. You're not good enough. So every time you went for the job and you didn't get it, it was, you're not good enough. Every time she said no or he said no or whatever, oh, that's because you're not good enough, right? The rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. I took the approach of, I'm going to counter that. List how many times you were good enough. How many times did you get the job? How many times did she say yes to go out on the date? How many times were you able to accomplish a goal? And what I found, Jeff, is I had a lot more evidence, right, that I was. It was there. It was in front of me. I couldn't deny it happened. It actually happened. And even that is not enough, because the work of this is by way of intentional reminder.
Well, and also the idea of neural pathways protecting you.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the ones your brain is not going to really
Easily
does
give
not
up.
want to give up because they're protection.
Right. And I would add to that the perceived perfection.
Yes.
But we have been given authority
Mm-hmm.
over these to reassure our brain it is safe. It is okay. And how I mean that is that's where the repetition comes in. That's where that intentionality comes in. Because you and I both know that eventually, once your brain sees you not taking that well-paved road that's been there for 30 years,
Mm-hmm.
and you're taking a different road, right?
That's bumpy and
Yeah. And at the beginning, the brain's resisting,
Mm-hmm.
brain's resisting. And then, again, I'm using my example, the brain then kind of goes to, well, I guess if we go this route once or twice a week, that's fine. Still resisting till, okay, once or twice a week. Eventually it'll get to the point where the brain's, well, this is not such a bad road. It's not such a bad, well, you know what? We can make this road work. But far too often, Jeff, and I've had periods in my life where I experienced this, I gave up.
Mm-hmm.
I gave up before that new neural pathway was acceptable or embraced by my brain. And well, what happens then, Jeff? Let's just go back. Let's just keep doing what we did before. We'll go to the old neural pathway because it's the best way. It's the safest way. And I missed out on a lot,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because there was opportunity for me to transition into this new neural pathway that was far healthier, far more advantageous for the life I wanted to live, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, for clarity for the audience, we're kind of talking about habits in many ways. Neural pathways and habits can have some commonality. Is that kind of, am I close on that?
I agree with that.
So what, we've heard it 1,000, if not a million times, right? New habits, how to build new habits. I think there's a book out there called Atomic Habits. James Clear, I believe. And it's pretty neat in as much as how he talks about how to form them and how to form the ones that will stick,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the idea is, maybe it's rhetorical, can we build new neural pathways? The short answer is
You can.
you can. Okay. I believe with sort of the package warning, it will take work.
Anything worthwhile takes work.
Interesting you'd say that, because someone close to me has a perception that the easy way is the best way. And I've thought about it. Where does that come from? And it's almost like a drug. I would imagine the high you get with cocaine is just unbelievable. Maybe it's euphoric.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe you feel like you are on top of the world. You can do anything, Jeff. But very rarely do they talk about what happens 3 or 4 hours after, the day after,
The crash.
the crash. So in the moment, I would absolutely agree. Easy is best until it's not.
And I think we need to make sure that what we're talking about, if you learn a new way to make a sandwich that's easier, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But we're talking about something much more important and just much more important. It's internal.
Yeah, it is. And I would say, the idea of the easy way is also formed out of core beliefs and neural pathways, no doubt. And I get it. There's a general idea here that the temptation of, if I can get it done easier, then, and we talked about this on a previous episode about the concerns we have about AI,
Mm-hmm.
shortcutting to an answer. when in reality, the gold is found in the process of understanding and reflection and coming to, that conclusion, not so fast, right? And now back to the episode. Jeff, what is the SEQ Development Report?
I'm glad you asked me that, Eric. The SEQ Development Report is something that we here at Spirit of EQ have developed to blend the idea of emotional intelligence with a person's spiritual life. And we're not talking about religion, we're talking about how they connect with themselves, other people, and the world around them.
Why is it important?
I think it's important because it allows someone to see where they stand, to give them information about maybe parts of their life they may need to work on, parts of their life that they're really doing well and learn to leverage it. And it just gives a person a better way of getting through the world.
So how do you get this report?
Well, first, you need to contact us. Info at Spirit of EQ is just a great way to do it. Then you would take an assessment, 15, 20 minutes, done online. And then after that, the report requires a debrief to go through all the things in it because it's got a ton of information. And then if you want to further your journey, we can do coaching and things like that with you down the road. And that's basically it.
Cool. Thanks, Jeff. And we'll be back to the episode after this. So if you had to think of a benefit of creating a new pathway, we've talked about it's hard work and the intentionality, but what's the benefit for building a new neural pathway, do you think?
It's going, if you intentionally are working on building this new pathway, this pathway that you're building is leading to something that you want to have happen, that you want to improve, that you want to maybe stop doing, whatever it is. That's the benefit of this new pathway. It's taking you to a destination that you want, that you put thought into, that you decided, okay, what I thought before really is not what I want to think now. And so that's the benefit of a new neural pathway. And keeping your eye on that destination is, for me at least, it's what's going to allow you to do that. If you forget what the importance of that destination, it's not going to work.
Yeah. I think for me, my son, and I think I may have alluded to this in a previous episode, was it was a near fatal auto accident some months ago, and it's had its ups and downs, twists and turns, and this last go round, multiple surgeries, right? And this last go round, we have another surgeon. I'm losing track of all the number of surgeons we've had and such. Yeah. But this last one was a bit more pragmatic, maybe a little old-fashioned in his approach. And he, in so many words, Jeff, said, you're going to need to kind of accept the ground that you're walking on. And he didn't say it real directly, but it was kind of veiled with accepting the ground you walk on, and do you know how fortunate you are that he's still here? And I didn't go to, well, it could be worse, right, type thing. But it did get me thinking, I think I need to recalibrate. I think I need to develop a new neural pathway that says, this is the ground I'm walking on that is not the same ground I was walking on 6 months ago. And I need to be open to it. The good, the bad, the ugly, the ups, the downs, the twists and turns. I need to be open to it. I need to allow it to unfold as I like or don't like.
So what is the benefit to you going to be when you do develop this pathway that you can't control all these things now? What is the benefit going to be to you?
My mental health will be stronger. I will be calmer, more at peace, less anxiousness.
And how is that going to affect your supportive grant?
Wonderful question. Follow up. Well, all those things. Because if I'm able to be in his presence with a non-anxious spirit, if I may say it that way, if I'm able to be calm, even as the storm is raging, if I'm sending a message to him that it's okay. And it's not okay because you should feel like this is the most wonderful time of my life, but no, it's okay. And we don't need an answer.
So these benefits from this new neural pathway are just going to snowball.
Yeah, because again, it's if we go back to it, it's we're taking a different roadway. We're no longer going to go that old one, because I think, Jeff, once we recognize that the old pathway is not serving, and for me, how I came to this conclusion in this regard was, okay, Eric, you're kind of like in a yo-yo situation. When you get good news, you're elated and you think, okay, we're there. And then 3 days later, there's another complication, and then you're back down.
Yeah, your old neural pathway to me would be, that's the one you used when somebody had the flu.
It was that, Jeff, but it was also, and it's understandable, and I want to say this, as a parent, you want your kids to not be in tough, difficult, harmful situations.
Mm-hmm.
And you would do anything to pull them out of that, to get them out of the way. But we know, even as a parent, life does not always provide that particular outcome.
Right.
So what I'm understanding, my old neural pathway says, well, what can I do? And my old neural pathway says, you should be excited because, look, he had a good day. My old neural pathway says, oh my gosh, here we go again, another complication. Because each time, my brain is just, got to protect Eric, got to protect him. So protecting me is, see, Jeff, there's another complication. We're in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
I know everyone out there might say, but wait a minute, you don't want to be in trouble. No, you don't want that. But guess what? It's familiar, Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
And if the neural pathway's been there a while, that's where it's going to go. Even if you say, but Eric, that doesn't make your life better. Eric, you can't feel good about, Jeff, I kind of do. I kind of do, because
right.
That's what I know. But what I'm finding now in the building of the new neural pathway is that I started to, over time, right? Yes, it didn't happen overnight, but over time I started to see, wait a minute, my mindset, my state of mind is better when I don't follow that old neural pathway. That is like injecting, because this is what encouragement is, injecting courage.
Mm-hmm.
So that courage transfers to, no, I'm going to stay on this new road. I get it. There's some rocks, and I get it. It's not paved as well as the old one, but we're working on that. And I'm gonna keep going this way.
I liked how you described encouragement, because most people don't think about the biggest part of that word.
Courage.
If you're encouraging somebody, you're giving them courage.
Yes. That is just that's such a prize. So I think from that standpoint, from a personal perspective, that's an outlining of the benefits.
Mm-hmm.
And notice, Jeff, circumstances are the circumstances. We did not talk about how we can change the circumstances, because in many respects, you can't.
That's out of your control.
Out of your control. All right. So here's another thing for you. I wanted to run by you.
Okay.
I think in some ways we've talked about how you build a new neural pathway. Is there, if you had to draw on EQ in helping, because I know in a previous episode recently you talked about, the competencies they're almost like tools, right?
Yeah.
That you can draw on and use. Any come to your mind as it relates to the development of a new neural pathway that could be helpful? As we've said many times, the audience can go and look at previous episodes or our website to know what these competencies are all about. But to that point, any that come to your mind?
I think the most important one to start the process is recognize patterns.
Yeah.
When this happens, this is what I always do.
Yeah.
And then, is it getting what I want?
Yep.
Is the result what I'm looking for? If it's not, recognize that pattern. Okay, I've got to start working on developing a new pattern.
Well, then in lies, see, I almost think of it as, okay, I'm building this new neural pathway, and typically when I start to hit rocks, I want to go back to the old.
Mm-hmm.
That's my pattern.
Right.
Because we didn't say this in the episode, right? I mean, there are going to be times where you might, Jeff, you checked in. Hey, Eric, how are you doing with the new neural pathway? Well, Jeff, I've been using the old one. It's a little bit more efficient. I mean, if we're honest, right, we are going to have times where we'll go back to the old one. But I think that recognizing patterns puts you in a position where you can go, okay, these are rocks. What do I typically do when I encounter rocks? I typically want to go back to the old.
To the one that doesn't have rocks.
The one that doesn't have rocks.
Yeah, it's when I look at, I have to visualize things.
Yep.
When I look at neural pathways, I look at more of as a stream.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got the old neural pathway.
Yep.
So you build the new neural pathway, so you have to dam up the old one. But if things start going rough, there's obstacles. That old neural path, the new neural pathway is going to kind of flood. And where's it going to flood to? It's going to break down that dam and go the way it knows.
Yeah. Yeah. Another competency that comes to my mind, which we talk about a lot, empathy.
Mm-hmm. Self-empathy.
Self-empathy, thank you. Because there will be those moments of discouragement. There'll be those moments when you maybe had sort of a misguided belief that the new neural pathway would maybe potentially solve a circumstance or fix a circumstance or change the circumstance. Right. But as I would just reemphasize, the exercise of building a new neural pathway is not to get circumstances to line up with what you want.
Right.
It's far more inspiring anyway to see someone navigate circumstances that are not to that person's liking, right? And I think along that pathway, though, you have to give yourself some slack,
right?
When there's disappointment.
Yeah, because everything is not going to go perfect.
Yeah.
I also think you need to make sure that when you're doing this, that it's intrinsically motivated.
Yeah.
If I go, Eric, every time this happens, you do this. You need to change that. That's not going to do anything.
Yeah. And that's probably, I mean, man, I could almost like all of these EQ competencies could be helpful. But to your point, beware. You probably will have people in your life that will try to be the extrinsic motivation for you, that will probably try to tell you, oh, that's never going to work. You need to do this.
You have to do that.
You have to do this. I had a friend who once. I had a brother who did. Right? We've all heard that before.
Right.
And I'm not saying that you should not listen to counsel, advice, and feedback or whatever, but be careful.
The true change is when you have to be on board with this whole process.
Yeah, and if somebody is giving you that kind of counsel, it's only valid when you go,
I agree with you.
I agree with that. And
okay.
I think I'm going to add that to my toolkit or whatever.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, exactly. Right. The other one, and maybe the last one, disclaimer, all the EQ competence probably will help you.
Exactly.
But the one that really sticks out to me finally is optimism, exercise optimism. Because the whole idea of that definition of I think it goes a proactive perspective of hope and possibility, something to that effect. I think it's important that you can envision in your mind the place, the date, the time where that new neural pathway is the way that you go.
And I like you said reactive or proactive. It's not
Thank you.
reactive. Yes.
Thank you, because you made me pause for a minute.
No,
I gotta, Jeff, what did I do? I know, I didn't mean that. No.
My pathway got offline.
Yeah, there you go. But yes, a proactive, absolutely. Because, it's just, there's your old neural pathway seems, at least for me, it was always calling my name. It's always calling out to me. Where you been? We've missed you. Come on back.
You remember how easy this was?
Yes, come on. You never know what could happen on that new neural pathway.
Yeah.
Right? And so in that sense, if you're not proactive, again, you may find yourself being pulled back into going the old way. But yeah, so hopefully this episode today for everyone was beneficial. And selfishly speaking, Jeff, it was beneficial for me.
I really enjoyed this.
So everyone, thank you for tuning in again, as always, and we look forward to the next time that we're together. Take care. Hi, everyone. This is Eric again. A couple of things as we've ended the show. We hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully you're tuning in on a regular basis. We'd love it if you would give us a great review on whatever platform you're listening to the podcast. It's so appreciative and helps us as we try to get more exposure for the work we do and the episodes that we publish, and we're grateful to you as a listener. The second thing is, just remember, our content is for educational purposes only. It's not intended by any stretch to diagnose or to treat anything that may be occurring in your life or anyone else's life that you may be connected to through the podcast. But once again, we appreciate you tuning in to the shows. And as always, we look forward to the next time that we're together. Take care.